Hi, everybody. I'm Michelle Morris with Consolidated Planning Group. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a fantastic informational webinar today with Elizabeth Sharpe. She is a learning and behavioral therapist, and she is going to talk to us today about those resistant preteens and teenagers and what we can do to help them launch successfully. So before I let her get started, I just want to go over a couple of things. Because we are in webinar mode, that means that we cannot see you or hear you, but please put your questions and comments in the chat box. Elizabeth has already put a question for you in the chat box, so please go ahead and test that out, make sure it works, and then that way, when you have other questions of your own, you can put them there as well. We should be here for about an hour today, so please, enjoy your drinks and snacks and whatever you need to get through this hour. Enjoy your lunch. We can't see you anyway. We do record all of our webinars and put them on our YouTube channel. So later on today, you will receive a link to that YouTube channel, plus you will receive the slides for today's webinar. Um, Again, I'm Michelle from Consolidated Planning Group. We are an independent, holistic financial planning firm. We focus on helping families like yours. About 90-something% of our clients have loved ones in their lives with some kind of disability, whether it be intellectual or developmental. This is not something that we just do once in a while or just sometimes. This is our everyday, our full practice runs on helping families with loved ones with a disability. We've been doing this for over 30 years. We have experience in insurance and investments, securities, all of that kind of stuff. And we can help you understand what you need to do to set things up correctly for your loved ones. We are members of the Special Needs Planning Academy. We're National Social Security advisors, and I am a chartered special needs consultant through the College of American Financial Planning. So we really take this very seriously. Families come to us for things like protection plans. What if somebody dies too early or becomes disabled, or you want to protect your loved ones through life insurance. We help you with lifetime care for your loved one. What is their care going to look like in the future, and how can you prepare for that starting right now? We do a lot of transition planning, ABLE accounts, helping you understand what what buckets your money needs to be in so that it does not jeopardize your kids' benefits. And we're here to advocate for you and to help educate you. There's a lot of noise out there, and some of it, people are getting misinformation because fewer than 0.1% of all the financial advisors in the United States focus on special needs planning. So there's about 263,000 financial advisors in the US, and fewer than 200 of them do what we do and understand the nuances of special needs planning. So we always say start planning early. The earlier you get started, the better the outcomes will be. Make sure that you're looking at what's going to happen after high school. There are some great residential options, vocational options, and educational options that can come after high school. And you don't want your loved one just to graduate to the couch. So we feel that it's important to tour these programs and these opportunities early and see what's available and get on any potential wait lists that might be out there. And finally, before I allow Elizabeth to step up, I want you to always just make careful consideration before you assume that a sibling is going to be the best care for your child. I always talk about this, and I talk about how it can create a resentment between your two children. Sometimes we meet with adult adult people who are caring for their siblings who are also adults. And I've heard some pretty shocking things in terms of their feelings of how their parents didn't plan enough and left the caregiving sibling kind of in the lurch. And the sibling who is being taken care of also feels resentment towards their sibling because, you're my sister, not my mom. You can't tell me what to do. It's it's wild out there, the things that I've heard recently. I mean, just this week about siblings having to step in and be in charge and being completely unprepared. So think long and hard before you just assume that it's going to be easy for a sibling to step in and take care of your loved one. Okay, so again, this is Elizabeth Sharpe. She is a learning and behavior therapist. She's going to tell you about everything she does and about the resistant preteen and teen learner. So thank you so much, Elizabeth, for being here with us today.
You're welcome. I'm so excited to be here and talking about one of my favorite subjects on earth, and that is the pre-adolescent and adolescent, because I feel like they're so misunderstood and they don't need to be. One of the things I do is mostly learning and behavior therapist, which means I work with students individually. I work with parents a great deal, help coach them to coach their own student, because my philosophy is that I think parents are much more powerful and important therapists and counselors and coaches and all that good stuff. I'm all for that in a consultative approach. And so when I work with my parents, I'm very consultative. And then they are really the strongest teachers for their student, because they look up to you and they want to please you, and they want, really, I know some of you may not believe this, but they really do want to do right by you and listen to you and all the things. I also do a great deal of homeschool coaching, because homeschool is one really powerful and possible option for a child. And before you think that it's not for you, I actually have always worked full-time. And I've graduated one from homeschooling and currently have a 9 and an 8-year-old that I homeschool and work full-time. So it is totally possible. Most of the women that I coach are actually working full-time mothers in a variety of careers, a variety of situations, and even some single mothers who homeschool and coach. So it is possible when that is a needed option. And then my husband and I do marriage and family coaching when that need arises. Sometimes we have to work with the marriage and the family dynamics. And so that's something that we really enjoy. And I usually bring my husband on board, because having that male perspective is so important. So that's what I do professionally. And we'll go to the next slide. And how I got on this journey is so important, because these 3 kiddos of mine really set up the stage for what I do now. I didn't grow up to do what I'm doing now. I actually was a child development professor for many, many, many years and a parent coach, and I really thoroughly enjoyed that. And after COVID, through a series of circumstances, I needed to be at home. I needed to have more flexibility. I needed to really be there for all 3 of my children. I have 3 children. One of them is biological, which is Maya, which is my eldest. She's 22 years old. She lives in Miami, and we're going to talk a little bit about her, because she was my first of my 3 resistant learners. I have 3, so I get to practice a lot. I tell people my professional training gives me really good foundation, but it's really my personal training at home that I live day in and day out. And started with Maya, and when Maya began being an extremely resistant learner, I really made a lot of negative assumptions about it and made a lot of errors about that. Even though I was in child development, I had no idea about neurodiversity very well and really what happens. But to give you all hope, to give you all amazing hope, no matter where you're at in the journey, Maya is really an amazing adult. She lives in Miami. She runs her own business despite having dyscalculia, which is a math disorder. She is an active youth leader with youth ministries. She coaches at the top gym in the country, All Star Cheer. She's a 15-year veteran of All Star cheerleading, so she's an amazing athlete. Has won both a bronze and world's gold medal at Worlds, which is the highest in her sport. And she's just really a phenomenal adult. So in those moments, when you feel doubtful, know that it is possible to come on the other side. And that's where I am right now. But I'm also signed up for 2 additional tour of duties, and that is Marcus, who Maya is holding, who we adopted at a very young age. He was 6 months when he came into our home. He is very neurodiverse, on the spectrum, wicked academically smart, however, behaviorally had a lot of executive function coaches, was also he was addicted to heroin and meth at birth and was in intensive ICU the first part of his life, in addition to has fetal alcohol syndrome. And so that created a lot of behavior issues that were very, very challenging. And then my last child, it wasn't enough to live in such a spirited home with Marcus, we adopted Zachary in February. He came to our home after being in foster care for since age 3. He came to us at age 7 and had a lot of difficulties in placement because of executive function issues and behavior issues. At heart, he's an extremely sweet child, but has had life give him a lot of challenges, spending a lot of time in very negative foster environments, as well as 6 months in group home with a lot of older children. And so he's experienced quite a bit, and that led to some academic issues that we are now on the mend, and actually quite a bit of behavior issues and some significant trauma. So we are in that season of transitioning both these 2 children together. And it has been a joy, and it has been a new challenge that, and so if you are an adoptive parent or want to be an adoptive parent, please reach out. I am super pro adoption, and it can happen with the right support and the right mindset to do well by these children. There are hundreds and hundreds, I'll give my sales pitch, of children in every state who are what we call adoptable ready, which means parental rights have been terminated. Zachary is one of my kiddos who parental rights was terminated a year and a half before we met him. And so they're waiting. And so if that gets laid on your heart at any point in your journey, please reach out to me. There are many agencies who are phenomenal, and these kids are ready. And we don't have to do pure fostering. We can do foster to adopt. All right. And so we're going to move now to our next section. And what I want to know from you, because I want this to be as interactive as we possibly can get, because we know that human brain does not learn unless they're involved in the process. And so I have posted a question of what caused you to sign up. Why are you here? What are the behaviors that you're seeing in your resistant learner? And that can be academic learning, but it also can be resistant about doing chores, or resistant about picking up their room. It can be resistant to listening to you. They don't want to listen to you. Resistant to teachers. It can be resistant about showers and brushing their teeth. Everything. Apathy, no drive or motivation. All right, that's one that we may be seeing. So we see no drive or motivation. And that is one behavior that is definitely resistant. Anything else, please post. Anger. We're seeing anger. If you could put the age, that's always super helpful. Fear of failure. Yes, fear of failure is definitely something that keeps us in a resistant mode. One of the things I always tell people is that we are no different than children and teens. Frustration with schoolwork. Yes. Definitely, all 3 of my kiddos. I always say that God is so funny. He gave me 3 kids that all hate school. So I've lived the dream every day. Everything struggle, multiple disabilities. Yep. Definitely any kind of physical or cognitive or emotional disability is going to play out in resistance. And 10-year-olds, no motivation, hate school. And hate school. Yep. A lot of school, definitely. And also, whether your child is in public, private, or homeschooled, we can see resistant behaviors in all of those settings. And it happens. I work with parents in all 3 of those settings, both charter schools, public school, private school, homeschool. Definitely, we see all of these behaviors in all different kinds of setting. So yeah, these are very typical. Everything you've said has been my children, all 3 of them at one point or another. So I think it's really important to remember that the behavior is important to document. Meaning, I always say that behavior is repetitive. And the very first step is being a good diagnostician. Loves school in the sense it's super social, but not the academics. Yeah, that was Maya. Man, Maya loved the social aspect of all kinds of things, but absolutely detested academic learning. But we'll tell you a little bit about where she's ended up. And she had to do some academic learning, and actually most recently signed up on her own to do a year college certification program in operational management, which just surprised me because it wasn't on the radar, and she did that on her own and is currently in that 1-year program. Yeah, so definitely you're naming a lot of really resistant. And so I want everybody to stop for a second. One of the things I work a lot on, that if we're going to be powerful coaches of our children, if we're going to really see some change that we want to see, we have to deal with a lot of different things. But the very most important thing is we have to deal with our own mindset as a parent, as a teacher, as a professional, if you work with students. And that is, I want everybody, a couple people who could be really brave and honest. And I'll start, because I always believe in disclosing my failures and my own stuff. What are you resistant to right now in your own life? And I'm going to talk about working out, because I have a garage full of equipment that calls my name every day. And I know I'm doing really good in avoiding sugar and fried foods and fasting and all the good stuff. But being a consistent working out person is just not my jam. And I'm very resistant. And there's a reason to that. And the reason is that I don't like doing it. I don't see results on the first day. And sometimes it hurts the next day because my body hurts because I don't work it out. So I'm resistant. So if somebody wants to be brave, what are things in your life that you're resistant to? And you don't have to tell me why, just tell me what it is. There has to be something. Maybe you're resisting about cleaning the house. Yes. Dieting. Yes. I'm also resistant to organizing closets. I've got 3 that really need some organizational management. Yes, you're resistant to. And I want you to acknowledge that, because we tend to get in the seat of judgment very quickly towards our own children. We tend to treat them as if they're common criminals. And we really need to take a step back and realize we are no different, except we hide it better and no one holds us accountable, right? No one holds us accountable to the fact that if I don't work out consistently, I'm putting my health at great risk in the older years of my life. And so, yes, we are resistant. And if you think about all the reasons you're resistant, it can help you really create some good empathy for your own child, because they're being resistant for a reason. They're not just doing this to make our lives more complicated. So that's important. And so when we talk about adolescence, we have to understand adolescence, okay? So let's go to the next shift, and then we'll deal with your behaviors, right? What are the fears that you have as a parent if your child doesn't want to learn or doesn't want to do chores, or what doesn't want to be motivated? Some of you mentioned there's no motivation. Go ahead and tell me, what are the fears that you have as a parent, or the narrative that you continuously say to yourself as you see some of this resistant behavior in your own child? What worries you as their parent? And so my biggest fear for Maya was that, well, how would she ever support herself as a human? Yeah, that they will be unemployed and isolated as an adult, or worse, yes, homeless. Absolutely. And certainly there are different realities to every child in terms of ability. That's why I'm so glad to be partnering with Michelle's organization, that we want to plan for the things we can plan for, which is sometimes the different abilities. We need to be realistic about those abilities. But we also need to realize that there are many roadmaps to independence. Many. Getting stuck in a cycle that I'm reinforcing and will break our relationship. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you said that, Rebecca, because another thing that's really dear and dear to me, especially with teenagers, is holding on to the heart of our children, maintaining connection. There is nothing more important than connection with our kids. And I have failed many times in the journey with all 3 of my children, in which I care more about results than connection. And so the question that you have to constantly ask yourself is, why do I care more about results than connection? Because it is through connection that we're going to get the results that we want. And so we really have to, take our fears, lay it out on a plate, and really confront them. Right. She'll get so behind that she can't get ahead. And I feel that also. Yes, that is another one that I had with Maya, right? She was severely academically behind. in all her subjects, by the way, not just one subject. And so what's going to happen? And so here's what I need to tell you, and you're going to have to trust me. And I have 2 programs that I work with parents to really work through this. I'd love to tell you you're going to get all the answers in 50 minutes. You're not. You're going to get some pieces of the puzzle, but really it takes in-depth work to really understand each family, each child, and each parent, to really equip you. And what I do in both my programs is I equip parents to really handle the day-to-day in and out of all of these things that you're mentioning. But one of the things Michelle said is, I'm fearful that my child will be behind. And one of the things is, the research supports this, and I've seen it over and over in all of my coaching, that if you will stop operating in fear and start operating in a connection mindset, meaning, hey, I need to connect with my student first, with my child first, before I can give demand. If you give demand before connecting, many things like anger, meltdowns, shutting down will happen. And if you're seeing shutting down and anger, what your child is letting you know is, the demand that you're asking, I cannot reach it for a variety of reasons. Okay, there's all kinds of, not just one, that I can't reach it. And the more you keep demanding, right, or pushing demand before you're willing to connect and figure out why your child can't meet the demand, then you're just going to go in a little circle like a hamster wheel. So take your fears. Here's my parent strategy, right? Stop focusing on the past, stay in the present, and stop focusing about the future. You've got to stay in today. What do I need to do today? And we go through a whole roadmap of this in my coaching programs. Stay in today so that we can really connect, and then work on the strategy that's going to work for your child, right? You're the grandma, the rest of the family judges me for homeschooling and wants to blame me for being behind. Oh, that's so tough. However, I started homeschooling to explore her gifts. I'm with you, Grandma. And I know, Michelle, that's very near dear to her heart. Yes, definitely. People are not going to understand homeschooling, so we don't listen to them. We join my homeschooling coaching program, and we listen to all the other homeschoolers who are on the journey. We want to stay away from negativity, and we want to stay away from people. If we have a spouse that doesn't understand, then that's why we do marriage communication. We've got to, bring our husbands along sometimes. And that is a hard journey, but we can do this. We can homeschool if we choose to. We can help children be successful. And I know for a doubt, I'm positive that Maya would not have been successful had we not homeschooled. I can lay money on that, because we were able to go at our own pace and really create the program that works for her. And that's what I do in my homeschooling coaching programs. So do not operate out of fear, operate out of strength. What is it that the child does well, and how do we capitalize on that? And what is it that they don't, and how do we create a new game plan? So all behavior is communication. So anger is an interesting one. My youngest one gets angry, and my 9-year-old used to get angry. Maya was never an angry communicator, but she was an extremely, I'm not going to do the work communicator. All behavior is communication, and anger is what we call a secondary emotion. It isn't the reason. Anger is the eruption of, I can't deal with this anymore. If you think about your own anger, most of us respond to demands that we can't meet in one or two ways. As adults, we either get angry. I'm a former angry person, so I get anger really well. We either get angry or we shut down. That's it. The human spirit, when it can't meet the demands of whatever is being placed in front of us. If you have a demanding boss and he's always on you and you're stressed out about it, you're either going to shut down or you're going to get angry. And maybe not at your boss, but you're going to get angry at someone, or you're going to shut down. So when you have an angry child who is yelling at you and screaming at you, or however they are expressing their anger, you have to understand that they're letting you know, I cannot either communicate my emotions except in anger, and I can't really effectively let you know why I cannot meet the demand, or why I'm not willing to meet the demand. Sometimes That's brain structure, ADD, ADHD, PDA, ASD, all of the disabilities, all of the neurodiversity, each of the profiles around each of those reacts differently to demand, okay? And there's no one cookie cutter, but we have general profiles that the brain function, in other words, the brain structure will function differently for every child. The way each of my children respond to demand they can't handle is differently. And so we have to figure out, first of all, how is my child's brain wired? And if you don't know much about each of those things, then definitely do some reading on that. And there's great, one of my favorite organizations is understood.org. It helps us really understand the research. Give me some perspective. The second thing is, ask yourself a question. If you can ask when they're calm, hey, you got really angry yesterday when I asked you to clean your room. Tell me what was going on in your heart or in your head. Now, they may not know what that means, so we have to educate. What was going on? If they aren't willing to express that, they either don't have the language skills, or they don't have the social emotional skills, or they're afraid of getting in trouble. Okay, and they don't trust you. And we need to build trust equity, and sometimes we need to rebuild trust equity as parents. So no shame in that. It's just, it happens. So we need to see if they can express. If they can't express, we need to train that. So they're letting you know. If they're not motivated, I saw that somebody said apathy. You know, apathy, by the way, we weren't created to be apathetic. The moment we're conceived and the moment we come out of the wound, we aren't apathetic humans. We learn apathy. It's something we truly, truly learn in the environment. And so we'll talk about that. And so all behavior is communication. So remember that it is not children being defiant. It's communication. Okay. And the question you have to ask yourself is it really that I don't want to learn? And the answer, according to the research and my own personal experience, is that all children want to learn. What they're telling you is, I don't like the demand. And there's a reason why I don't like the demand. Okay. There are many reasons. Let me ask you this, parents. What are the possibilities about why a child doesn't want to do homework or chores or go to school or any of those? Give me some guesses. I know that you guys are all brilliant, but what happens is your emotions get in the way in your brilliant brain. And that is, yes, it's too hard. Yep. I don't like to work out because some of that stuff out there is way too hard for me. Yes, it's too hard. And that's all of us. That's all of us. That's not just children. It's too hard. Do you know how many women, one of the things I've started doing is coaching women in business. And do you know what women tell me is, I want to start a business, or I want to work for myself, or I want time freedom. And I'll say, let's do it. And then they say it's too hard. Right. I don't want to do it. Absolutely. Pleasure seeking. We've got some kiddos who like pleasure and they like dopamine hits, right? I know that if my brain only gets excited when it's pleasure, which is most of us, right? Why do you all binge on Netflix instead of working out? Right? I know I do, because that's pleasure seeking. It's much more fun to watch Netflix than to lift weights. Much more fun for me. Right? And so, yes, I don't like that. Now, that said, we're going to get to a little bit about how do we shift that, right? But yes, the brain sometimes, I have my 9-year-old, oh my gosh, extreme dopamine seeker, extreme dopamine seeker. If it doesn't give me a high and a rush, I'm not doing it, even when I have the ability. Remember, I said the 9-year-old was wicked smart. He could be in 9th grade if he wanted to. He is academically brilliant. But if it is not exciting and it doesn't bring me pleasure, I'm not doing it. Sorry, no dice. Absolutely. So a lot of them. And sometimes it doesn't make sense. Another one is it doesn't make sense in my brain. Right? Y'all married? Do you know how I confuse my husband all the time? Because it doesn't make sense to him why I ask the things I ask of him. He looks at me like, are you crazy? It doesn't make sense in his brain. So I have to explain it, and he has to understand why certain things need to go the way they need to go because it makes me happy, right? So they don't understand exposure to meth and euro can make them more prone to dopamine. Yes, absolutely. A lot of I'm not a drug expert. Okay, so please, I'm not a medical doctor. Let me, make sure I'm not liable, but always do your research and check with medical experts. But yes, in my research, we know that drug addiction can, not always, make you dopamine seeking. Not always, though, not always, but it is one of the not factors, but one of the behaviors that we do see in children, right? And sometimes they are not exposed to drugs and they still are dopamine seeking, right? So it's definitely brain wiring. There are a lot of arguments about that. Sometimes it's food and toxicity. Sometimes it's just genetics. And sometimes it's so many other things. And my philosophy when I coach is it's great to find out root issues. I love root issues, but I like to spend more time talking about solutions because that is really where it's at. Regardless of why a child needs what they need, we need to figure out how to get them to meet their needs in non-destructive ways and in ways that are helpful to the family dynamic and school dynamic. All right, let's go on to the next one. What else could they be telling us? You just answered that. I'm bored, it's too hard, I'm hungry, I'm tired, I'm mad because last night you had a fight with dad and I heard your fight. You think I didn't hear your fight, and I'm a highly sensitive child, and so today I'm going to take control in my life by being dysregulated, right? Some children, everything affects them. Changes in schedule, the holidays are coming, oh my goodness, please, please, please. Please realize that holiday changes and expecting to kiss grandma and all the sugar and all kinds of things will disrupt dysregulation or get kids to be dysregulated. So don't underestimate that simple little things like, are you ready? Simple things like going to a vacation and planning a vacation, a new baby, a new dog. Like it's not one thing. Every child has different empathy thresholds and emotional thresholds. And so what bothers one child may not bother the other, okay? But let's talk about really quick, I didn't get to adolescent brain. Pre-adolescence is between 9 and 12, and adolescence is between 13 and 19. And those are really broad ranges because based on genetics and in utero experience and learning disabilities and sickness and toxicity in the womb and in the environment, those will go different ways, okay? Let me tell you this. Hormones begin to fluctuate as early as 9, okay? As early as 9. And so hormone shifts at different, we know that the most major hormone shifts occur between 3 and 6, and between 9 and 12, and then between 13 and 19. So there's these shiftings of hormones, right? So we want to be aware that if one day your child didn't do this, and then the next day they start doing it, it could be hormones. It could be not. We have to take data. And so I would say collect patterns. Collect the patterns. What is triggering all of this that you're seeing? So that's one thing. The next thing is we need to realize that many parents do not shift in their roles. So until they're adolescents, most of our roles is being a caregiver, making sure they're alive, making sure they eat well, making sure they do their homework. And then all of a sudden, we began to get the pushback a little bit, depending on the temperament, in junior high and high school years. Why? Because number one, that's what they're supposed to do, right? Because if there's no pushback, they will never learn to be independent. And you want independence. The thing is, you all want independence and responsibility with no pushback. That does not exist on Earth, just so you all know. That is not the way it happens on Earth. Teenagers must push back. That doesn't mean they have to be rude, but they do push back and they want to do things their way. They want to learn who they are. And in the junior high years, that transition between 10 and 13, I am transitioning from just doing everything you tell me with no problem to, I think I'd rather not. And that's normal, typical. Where it becomes where we need to start going, man, okay, is this something we need to change? is when it now begins to interfere in daily routines all the time, when it begins to affect different things like eating, schooling, and the ability to gain the responsibility skills that we all need to learn in the junior high and teenage years significantly. That's when we need to go, okay, we need to do something different. So they're letting us know it is typical. Let me just tell you, I'm a control freak in recovery, and Maya broke me of that. If you all have controlling tendencies as a parent, and you don't have to tell me, right? It's between you and yourself. This time period is really going to be aggravating for you. You cannot control anybody but your own reaction, and you can only set the boundaries and enforce logical consequences to behavior. You cannot control humans. How do I know? I can't control all three of my children, my husband, and not even my dog sometimes. So we cannot control. So ask yourself this: am I making the situation worse by attempting to get my way? See, because the only way you're going to is if you begin to set the boundaries up and make sure they have the skill set to be able to be successful. And you can't do that if you're trying to control. All right, moving on. So that's really important. All right, so that's what we call the parent mind shift, right? We've got to shift our mindset. I can't control. They're trying to become independent. The other one is it's not personal. How many of you, if you're honest, you could just put this in the chat so you can let everybody know we're all in this together. How many of you personalize your child's behavior? In other words, you take it personally. You think they're doing this on purpose. You feel unappreciated. You feel tired, overwhelmed, sick and tired of it. Can't do this one more day. Yes. All right. Yay. Look at all of the honest mamas out there, or caregivers, or grandmamas, or foster mamas. Yes, I am with you. Yes. We personalize, more women than men. Men don't tend to, but women personalize this behavior that we perceive that it's about us. So I'm going to love you for a second, then I'm going to kick you in the behind. Are you ready? I'm going to love you by saying that we all feel this way and we're human. And if you do get to that point where you're like, man, I'm about to like lose it if this child does A, B, or C one more time, I need you to walk out of the room. I need you to leave it alone. I need you to take a time out for yourself if you possibly can. And if that means you're a single parent and just sitting there, then let them binge on, SpongeBob for all I care. Because I would rather have you let them binge on SpongeBob than actually scream at them. Okay, and I've done it. There have been days I've just got to, you know what? We're gonna sit here and we're gonna watch some SpongeBob or whatever it is, and we're gonna take a moment, because if you don't shift out of personalization, you will not coach, you will punish. We cannot coach and discipline, right? Because the shift that has to happen in the adolescent years is I'm going to go from being your caregiver to being your coach. And then when they become adults, get ready, you got to be a consultant. And that's harder than being coached. I'm in both seasons, by the way. I'm actually heading out of the caregiver. I'm a coach. I'm a caregiver for one, a coach for the other, and a consultant for the third. Man, I'm in all of them. So you need to realize that it is not personal at all. It feels terribly personal because you're tired, right? And here's the thing: get yourself together, get an espresso shot, have a green smoothie, do what you got to do to gather yourself and ask the question is, what is motivating the behavior? What is the need that's being met by the behavior? Why are they avoiding this? You've got to become a good researcher. Okay, now I'm going to kick you in the butt. Are you ready? Here's the kicking in the butt. You cannot have two children or two teenagers in the room at the same time. What do I mean by that? If you're personalizing this and you're not in the right mindset, now you've become a teenager or you've become a child, and there's just no way it's going to go well for anybody. I've failed many times, so no shame, no judgment, no guilt. I have failed. I do this for a living and I still fail sometimes. Why? Because I'm a human being and I want it my way, and I wish everybody would just follow the script. But they don't, because they're humans, and we got to coach and love them and have grace and mercy Because guess what? My husband has grace and mercy with me many times, and God has grace and mercy for me many times. And so I've got to regroup myself. So that's the kicking in the butt. You cannot be a good coach and be a child or a teenager, right? You have a full brain. You're over 25. I'm going to assume most people are over 25 on here. Thus, we all have full brains. So let's really humble ourselves. And that's hard. And if you struggle with that, then come join my parenting group, because it is awesome. And we talk about this all day and come up with strategy. This is one more question I want to ask yourself. This is what's going to fuel fear. Okay. Is it your dreams or their dreams? When you're dealing with the adolescent, one of the things that starts to happen, especially in the teen years, when they're not measuring your expectations academically, socially, morally, spiritually, and they're not reaching your expectations, what happens to most mothers, only because I work with them 24/7, is you start setting into fear. Oh my goodness, what's going to happen if they're behind in science? Let me tell you what's going to happen. Nothing. Ask me at what grade level we stopped teaching science to Maya. 2nd grade. Okay. Guess what? She makes more money than the average college graduate at this point in her life. You know why? Because she started a business. She didn't go to college. Why? She didn't want to. Had she wanted to, she would have done it, but she didn't want to. Don't ask her anything about science. Guess what ended up happening? This is really funny. She stopped doing science at 2nd grade. Guess what she chose to choose for a living? Become a sports massage therapist. Guess what sports massage therapy has to learn really quickly and really deeply? Science, biology, cellular functioning. She had to learn that. Guess what? Did she learn it? Yeah, she got through her program. Did she like it? No. Did we have to hire tutors? Yes. Did she have to group? Yes. But guess what the difference was? Now Maya was learning it because she wanted to learn it. And she wanted to be a massage therapist and work for herself. I didn't have to tell her to go learn cellular biology. She cried every week. Okay, but she made it through. And she got, and then she got certified by the state of Florida. She had to pass licensing. Oh my goodness, that was a whole nother kit and caboodle, right? But she did it because it was her dream, not mine. So let me just give you all a pass right now. Those of you who are homeschooling, y'all need to let it go and teach the basics. Reading, and I'm not even going to say writing all the time, reading and basic math, and move on. And let's see if we can get through that part. If you're in public school or private school, then you're the parent, you need to have some meetings, and I do advocacy work, and you need to tell that teacher what's going to happen, and we won't tell the school what's going to happen, because we are not going to make life miserable at home for a child and make them do homework for 3 hours. Not happening on my watch, okay? And we can call me, join my group. Let's teach you how to advocate for your child. Because guess what? They don't need to learn all that. And then the last thing I want to say, and Michelle, I know, has spoken about this before. They may or may not go to college. They may or may not follow the path that you want. We've got to figure out how to form a path for them. And that's what I needed to do for Maya. What is going to be Maya's path? And Maya's path was business ownership, entrepreneurship. She hates social media marketing. Guess what? She hires someone to do it, right? She only likes to rub on people real hard, and she's great at it. And guess what? She's not going to do this forever, because she's also studying operational management. She's getting a certificate so she can manage organizations well. That was her dream, not mine. I'm not even part of that anymore, right? She's even paying for it, okay? So guess what? We've got to let go of what our expectations are for the future for our kiddos, and we need to trust that they will lead us. We will hold them accountable in the journey, but they will lead us what they want to do. And guess what? My 9-year-old, he could be a freaking NASA engineer. His brain is so smart, but he may be too bored to do it, and that's okay, because he's also talked about owning a business, like a ninja gym. Awesome. Let's teach him business in high school. Okay. So let go of your dreams and ask, if you're a person of faith, ask God what his dream is for your kiddos. And this, if you're not a person of faith, look at your children's talents. Look at what they do well and can do for hours. Then channel that into schoolwork. Channel that into life. Even if your child goes to public and private school, we can do this. If you don't know how to do it, again, join our community, because I teach parents every day, every week, once a week, how to do this. So that's really important. So don't lose hope, mama. We talked about this already. Are we a controlling hope parent or a coaching parent? Oh man, I could talk 9 hours about this as a former control freak. And there are days I've got to step away because I can become a little controlling. You know why? Because I'm tired. I'm stressed. They're not following my schedule. I'm mad at my husband. Let's just be real. I'm mad at my husband today because he annoyed me this morning. My boss is annoying me. My mother-in-law is annoying me. Whatever. And then you know what happens is we take it out on our kids. And no shame, again, no shame or guilt or condemnation. But I need you to be reflective, right? By the way, I'm a former angry person. I messed it up with Maya for 7 years. I yelled at her. So please, I am not judging anybody. I was there. I was yelling every day to the point that she would call my husband at work and say, Mom is yelling and she won't stop. So, hey, I overcame the anger and the yelling, but I had to let go of control. And the only way I did that was to reflect about what are my fears? And you've got to lay those down and you've got to focus on today. What do I have to do today? Oh my God, I just got to get them to school on time today. And if I do that, I'm a winner. And if I can get a protein breakfast into my kids, one of my kids only likes carbs, one only likes protein, and it's every morning. It's just, so much fun. But here's the thing. If you struggle with anger and control, please call me. Please call me because it's not going to get better, because it's only going to get harder as we have to release control every year as they head toward adulthood. I know I want to control my 22-year-old. I don't, by the way. She's amazing, but I want to still. I still want to say something like that. But I don't, because she is a competent young woman who is learning some of life's lessons on her own. And when she needs help, she asks me. Okay, and that's the goal, for us to create a safe space, a calm space, a space where our kids have trust equity with us. That when they're 22 and they're really in trouble, or they're 17 and they're really in trouble, or they're 15 and they're really in trouble, they can call us and say, hey, what do I do? Because guess what? If they learn science or don't, doesn't really matter in the big scheme of things. And guess what? My daughter's not a great speller. She's learning as an adult. Okay, I needed to get her to read. And she did learn to read. It took 5 years, by the way, of private reading therapy, not from me. I hired someone else to do that, which is another thing. Sometimes we've got to hire someone else to do the thing that's challenging for us. And so I hired a reading therapist because at that point in life, I was not an expert yet. All right. So I'm all for letting someone else do certain things. Okay, Sharpe secret recipe. Okay, this is the 4 things that I'm always teaching in my private and group coaching environments with my parents, okay? Over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, okay? I'm not going to get to all of them, but I mean, to the details. Each family's different, each child's different, and what are your goals? They're different. Reflective listening and problem solving. This is so hard. I'm telling you right now, you've got to learn to create space to let your child talk. If they are verbal, to let them talk. And sometimes they don't know how to do that because they struggle with descriptive language. I'm about to release a workshop on descriptive language in the next week. Sometimes it's hard for them. So they need to be trained. They need to be taught. And sometimes they need, assistive technology. But I think it's important that we figure out how to teach them to express what they're feeling, what they're thinking, why they're being resistant, okay? And then we need to listen and say, man, getting your math sheet done is really hard for you because you feel there are too many problems on this page. Yeah. Wow, I can see that. And then we need to move into problem solving. Let me tell you this, if you move into problem solving without reflective listening, you will never get out of the hamster wheel. You're stuck in the hamster wheel for a couple reasons. You're controlling, you're in fear, or you will not listen to this child and connect with them first. And so they will not move to problem solving till they feel that you understand, you see them, you hear them, you understand them. I promise, especially the teenagers. The older they get, I went through a season with my daughter when she was about 15 or 16. She didn't talk to me for 3 months. Why? I wasn't safe because I was in fear and I what is it? I relapsed into control. So y'all need to really do some self-reflection. We want to look at the school environment. Are they in the right school environment? And this is another tough one sometimes. Sometimes public school is not the best place for children. Sometimes it is, if it is a really good public school that has really good supports and really is very parent attentive. Sometimes private school is the best. Sometimes it's not. I know private school is expensive. This is why we have so many wonderful homeschooling co-ops now and university style homeschooling programs. So there are lots of options in the homeschooling community. And that's the only good thing about COVID that happened, is that we have really a lot of homeschooling. You've got to take a hard look at that. And some of you may be going, well, I can't afford it. I work full time. I'm a single parent. Yes, I understand. I coach all of those people in homeschooling, right? Working parents, single parents, sometimes. And if you can't pull them from the school environment, then look for a different district, look for a different school, advocate for your child, because not every public school has the same level of support, or not every school is as responsive. I get brought into IEP and 504 meetings all the time, and some teams are amazing, and some teams make me cringe and make me want to scream at people, because they just don't get it. Some principals are amazing and some principals are awful. Okay, you've got to then shift. And here's how you do that, just a little tad. If a school can't offer what your child's need, you can challenge districts. Okay, so there's all kinds of legalities that we can utilize. Okay, and so that's the thing, short-term and long-term goals. Write down with your child, if they can, verbalize what are their short-term goals and long-term goals as far as academics and other things. What are they for you? Get your teenager to come on board with you. When you move to that adolescent, by the time they're 13, you've got to learn how to partner with your child. If you haven't learned how to partner with them, my husband had a tough time accepting that our 9-year-old was on the spectrum. He was in denial, and he would say, well, he's so smart. He's got good language. And, he's just being manipulative. And he did a lot of spanking, I'm going to be honest. And I hated it. Because I knew there was something not quite right. Eventually, my husband, through good communication and good marriage coaching from friends of ours who helped us get through our little sticking points, we found out my child was on the spectrum, but he also had PDA, right? I hate this word, pathological demand avoidance. I like to call it just demand avoidance. And that's real. And in January, I'm going to be doing a webinar on demand avoidance, because I have taken a deep dive into this, because I find that most people are coaching wrong. And so we want to partner. Now that I partner with him and my husband partners with him, he rarely has a meltdown. Rarely. It is rare. So that's really important. Okay. Yeah, I know. Join my parent group. By the way, anybody who joins any of my parent groups, I give you a 50% discount if you mention that you were on the webinar. So join my parent group. I will make it happen financially for anybody. Okay. So please join my parent group before January if you want to get some help. And then the last thing is strength experiences. Yeah, I will. I'll send it in the email, Miss Jess. I will make sure to send all of the info on the parent group via email. But you can also text me. Strength experiences. This is the most important. Okay, are you ready? Next to reflective listening. Strength experiences, look at your parenting. How much time do you spend having what I call experiences with your child in which they're good at it? Do we spend more time harping on math, which they hate? Or do we spend more time talking about dreaming, planning, doing strength experiences? The more time they spend doing good things that they are good at, right? And you don't have to have a lot of money to do this. Sometimes things cost money. Sometimes they don't. You want to know why I want to start a YouTube channel on visiting state parks in the state, or skateboard parks in the state of Texas, because I spend at least 3 times a week at skate parks. that are free. Why? Because my 9-year-old is trying to learn scootering and become an Olympic scootering guy. And my other one likes to work on biking. Okay, and they're good at that. PDA is pathological demand avoidance. I hate that term. There are other better terms. It is not highly recognizable in the US, which is why I'm going to do a webinar. And I actually want to write a book on PDA, because in the US, we don't believe it happens. And my diagnostician who evaluated my son for autism told me that there was no such thing as PDA. And the moment I found out about PDA and the moment I began to do PDA strategies, everything changed with my son. Let me tell you how good it changed. Yesterday, I was working from 4 to 9. My husband is usually home by 4:30, but he took the day off to take the car to the auto place, and he spent 9 hours there, and he wasn't home until 6. I was freaking out. It was 4 o'clock, no dinner on the table. Guess who made dinner for his brother and him without being asked, without him trying to annoy his brother? My PDA child. I was like, what? I could hear things happening in the kitchen. I didn't know what was happening, but he did. Why? Because even though somebody told me that PDA was not real, it was real. It's really, the research comes out of Europe, most of it, and very little research is coming out of, which is why I'm going to do the webinar. All right, but message me and we can get you in the parenting group and we can talk PDA all day long. I want you to every day shoot for this. At bare minimum, let your child know what they did really, really well. Every day, once in the morning and once at night. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's that they put socks in the drawer really, really well. And then I want you to, at bare minimum, once to twice a week, do something with your child that they lead. It can be baking, it can be art, it can be cleaning the garage. Let them lead and do it their way, not your way, right? That is such a game changer for kiddos who struggle with anger, who struggle with failure, who struggle with anxiety, who struggle with a lot of things. We are so busy in our lives, and I'm very busy. I run a full-time business for myself. I homeschool. It's busy. It's busy. I still coach my daughter, helping her with her business. It's busy. But if we can take moments daily to connect with our kids. And then the last thing is, if you've tried certain strategies and they don't work, stop. If yelling has not fixed it, then could you stop? If timeouts haven't fixed it, could you stop? If it hasn't worked, then you need a new strategy. And again, we do that in my group. One of my favorite books, wait, it's right here. Where is it? All right, The Explosive Child is probably one of my favorite books on earth, because it was the game changer for my husband. It really helped him. He read it reluctantly, but he did it. It is not the only book, but it's a place to start. And then understood.org is another great resource. So here's what I want you to do. If you want to really work through this and really change the dynamic of what's happening, then call me. I do a homeschool coaching program. I do a group parent that's very low cost, and I also offer sliding scale. I do an ADHD behavior parent strategy, and I also do one-on-one if that is what you want to do. So please text me. Text is best. There's my number, 408-561-5137. It's best to text me because I'm really fast. Email, I just stink at. So please do that. I don't have executive functioning skills for email sometimes. And do I accept Medicaid? I do not accept Medicaid. I am a private practitioner, but I will make it work for you. I have not had one parent call me that I've not made it work for them. Okay. And I work with single parents and I get tight budgets, but I make it work. So if you will call me, we will figure it out. And a PDA is not the same as ODD. Oppositional defiance disorder, which is another title I have a tough time with. ODD is not the same, and I'm not a real big fan of that label. So thank you guys so much. This has been such a privilege. The last thing is, please don't lose hope. there is an answer for your child's brain and there is an answer for what's going on, but you've got to keep digging. And I would consider it such a pleasure if you would work with me long-term. Come on and talk to me so that I can help you find the solution. By the way, I've measured my success rate. It's 99%. So I can help.
Fantastic. Great
Yeah.
job, Elizabeth. I just went ahead and put up the contact info for Consolidated Planning Group as well as we say goodbye. In case you want to reach out to Consolidated Planning Group, you can reach us here. You can follow this QR code. There's our YouTube channel, Instagram, our podcast, and Facebook. We do a free Zoom consultation. Elizabeth, do you offer free consultations, or what's their next step to get on your schedule? You're muted.
What you need to do is text me for a phone call, and then I figure out if I'm a good fit for what you're looking for, and then we do a Zoom strategy session where we have an in-depth discussion about how I could best help. But yes, and those are free. I don't charge for any of those.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for being here with us. And everybody have a fantastic day. Thank you for joining. Bye-bye.